This is a short section. We will look at women and girls and their role in climate solutions in drawdown. They are also into farming, and they obviously face all kinds of issues, including the fact that climate impacts are shown to disproportionately affect women and girls. We'll just run through some statistics here first and then come to more specific issues of women landholders and their productivity and their troubles and so on. So if we just start with the share of the population that is female in 2017, you can see that there is a distribution with richer countries having 50% or more of women, whereas these developing countries, which you can mostly consider as the global south, China, India, these Asian countries, MENA, North Africa, Africa, and so on, especially this country here, which is Saudi Arabia, and then this should be Oman, Yemen, and so on and so forth. Middle Eastern countries have much lower percentage than the rest, right? Russia is up here, which is a bit skewed. Nonetheless, even if we look at sex ratio at birth in 2017, you can see that number of boys at birth for every 100 newborn girls is larger than 100. So countries like India and China often get pulled up for, or even Pakistan and so on, pulled up for preferring boys, and then it involves other kind of actions which are banned. For example, doing ultrasound is banned because then it may lead to female feticide and so on. So there is a problem from the beginning. You can then look at the population of 5-year-olds, and you can look at infant mortality and so on and so forth, and there is a skewness in the male to female ratio from the beginning itself. Coming back to agriculture, where many countries, especially developing countries, the land ownership rules themselves do not always offer a fair share to women because of the patriarchal families and the way family wealth is inherited, especially land. Women often don't end up getting any share of the land, and even when they own land, they face all kinds of difficulties. So we will look at specific recommendations from one book on how that situation can be helped. So here, looking at share of agricultural landowners who are female. So this is share of female agricultural landowners among all landowners. Landowners are those that own land solely or jointly with someone inside or outside the household. So in general, everywhere it's very small, way less than 50%. So some of these countries here have South American countries and some African countries and some East European countries have upwards of 35%, but in general you can see that this is at about 7 to 14%. Same in the US, and in Canada it's 21 to 28%. Somehow up down here in I think Malaysia, maybe is it, or maybe it's, yeah, whatever. So that one has also a slightly higher percentage of landowners. So in general, owning agricultural land itself is an issue. And if you look at employment in agriculture, females, percentage of females employed in terms of the International Labor Organization estimates, over this period of 1990s into 2017, somehow it has dropped from above 40% down to 25% or so. The reasons for this have to be figured out, whether they moved into better jobs or they got pushed out of the farm jobs, or family incomes went up, so females stopped working, and all those kinds of details have to be looked at. Looking at a map of the same thing, again the same data, but now looking at 2019 averages. You can see that here developing countries like India have a much larger proportion of agricultural workers being female. So similarly in many African countries and here in Asia and so on. But once you go to richer countries, it depends on the overall employment itself of women being much better. So farm jobs may not be preferred jobs in the richer countries. Office jobs and so on may be much more attractive. Nonetheless, it also points to the fact that females are often treated as labor in agriculture rather than farmers and landowners, so that's also an issue. So more specifically looking at women and girls and women smallholders who own a land of 1 to 2 acres or less, the ranking of their role in drawdown is at number 62, and they have the potential to reduce CO2 by 2.06 gigatons. The data is too variable to be determined, but net savings of encouraging women smallholders in farming with the various methods we've already looked at under the food section is supposed to bring a net saving of $87.6 billion. So that's not a trivial amount at all. So here are some proven interventions address ways in which current systems fail women through complexity on the ground, though complexity on the ground defies one-size-fits-all strategies. So obviously you need to have region-specific, culture-specific strategies to deal with this. Bina Agarwal, a professor at the University of Manchester and author of A Field of One's Own, captures the range of measures needed. So recognize and affirm women as farmers rather than farm helpers, a perception that undermines them from the start. Increase women's access to land and secure clear, independent tenure, not mediated through and controlled by men. Okay, so even when they are actually owners, the ownership can be mediated through or controlled by men. Improved women's access to the training and resources they lack, provided with their specific needs in mind, microcredits in particular. So self-help groups and group farming and so on among women is shown to increase their productivity, their farming activities, their incomes, and so on and so forth. And they're often much better at managing family finances than men are. Focus research and development on crops women cultivate and farming styles, systems they use. So even the technology used by women has to be made for them. They are they have different ways of doing things, and they can handle different equipments and so on. So that also has to be considered. Foster institutional innovation and collective approaches designed for women smallholders, such as group farming efforts. Group farming efforts where women are working together improves their overall productivity and so on. So this solution models reduced emissions from avoided deforestation resulting from increasing yield of women smallholders. Based on literature in the field, we assume yield per plot can rise by 26% if women's access to finance and resources comes closer to parity with women, just with men's. So just that gender gap is massive and can help improve yield per plot. If women managing 98 million acres receive equal assistance and achieve that 26% gain that's argued for here, this solution could reduce 2.1 gigatons of carbon dioxide by 2050 and produce those net savings of billions of dollars. Okay, so we'll add more details as we go along, but this is an important consideration for overall climate justice, climate parity, equal access, and drawdown in particular.